you're looking at some grains of powder. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to do a little basics video, some information here on grains. A lot of questions, and you see postings about grains. Like we experienced shooters will refer just randomly to a 147 grain bullet or whatever it is, or cartridge, and you'll see questions occasionally from generally new shooters or non-shooters wondering, what do you mean by grains? You know, is that how much powder's in it? What are you talking about there? So I thought, rather than just a brief FAQ, we would get a little deeper into it. You know, what is a grain? What's it mean? Well, in the shooting world and reloading world, cartridge world, that is the unit of measurement that's used for a lot of things. This is a 405 grain bullet. That's 10 or 11 grains of powder you were just looking at. You had your face in that pan, didn't you? Hope you didn't get any of that on your nose. Powder is grains. You know, that's how we weigh things like that. So we talk about grains all the time. And I don't want to confuse you. I want to clarify for you. And as you can imagine, since you know, reloading, shooting, there's so much talk of grains. It is the unit of measurement that it's my favorite unit of measurement. In fact, I can tell you how many grains my car weighs. I have my bathroom scales set up on grains. You know, it shows me I weigh, I think it's 1,610 grains. You know, when I stand on that scale. You know, my wife doesn't like that too much. You know, big long number when she gets on there. But that's the downside. Upside is, someone asked me how much I can bench press. 2 million. Yeah. Anyway, a grain is a very small unit of measurement. That's the bottom line. Okay. Now let me keep it simple and not get too silly for you new shooters and non-shooters. The bottom line is, first of all, when you see us talking, referring to grains, a particular bullet, cartridge, you know, somebody shooting, what are you shooting there? 230 grain bullet? Well, we're talking about the bullet, okay? Rarely is anybody ever talking about the powder, unless it's, you know, some shooters and reloaders talking about their powder charge of a certain kind of powder. Just assume it's the bullet, okay? Because lead is lead. Powder is not powder. For one thing, you're never going to hear me or any experienced shooter or hand loader asking somebody, well, how many grains do you use in that cartridge? Because it varies. Like this powder, Winchester 231 is a powder I use. 5 grains of that is different from 5 grains of 2400, another common powder, and unique, one of the most common classic powders. So 5 grains of this is maybe a decent little load for a certain cartridge. 5 grains of this is not much. In fact, not even recommended probably for most standard pistols. 5 grains of this would be a little warmer than that. So, and then I could bring out, I don't really have a lot of faster, hotter burning powders, but there are other powders that are very common, whereas 5 grains of this would be really weak. But 5 grains of it, bullseye for example, would be really hot. Maybe smoking hot, too hot for, you know, a given bullet, okay? And this is just 3 different powders. There are hundreds of powders, and every one is different. Look at my manual here. I just want to drag this out. For example, this manual, let me show you the cover real quick. This is the manual I bought in 1973, and I started reloading with it, okay? Still around, I keep it in the reloading room. See, these stats don't change for some of these old powders. But you see, for example, there's a 250 grain cast bullet, 44 Magnum, bullseye powder, just 4 grains. 2400 you see over there in that one can at 18 grains of it, or the starting amount. You know. And then here's the unique, I have a can of that there, 7 grains. I don't have any of these others, I guess. But you see the variance on the starting amount of powder. It's a wide range there. So. And that's just a few powders. So that's why no one just talks about how many grains of powder you would be using. So it would be crazy. It'd be dangerous. You wouldn't be talking about, you know, amount of powder as if it's all the same. Now with black powder, back in the old days, you know, or even now if you're loading black powder, you know, you could do that, I guess. If you're talking about the same like 2F or 3F or 4F, you know, the same granule size or something, you know, not quite as serious there. But with powder, no one's talking about how many grains, or Yeah, I bought some 45 ACP yesterday. I think it was 200 grain loads or 200 grain rounds or something. Someone's ever saying that, you're hearing that, they're talking about the bullet weight. They're talking about the bullet this, okay? That's all they'd be talking about. They would not be talking about the powder, okay? Too many different kinds of powder. You'd have to specify powder. Now, why is that? You know, because maybe in your life you've never heard anybody talk about grains. You're not from a shooting family, and you know, where's that come from? We didn't talk a lot about that in math class or necessarily. Well, the reasoning for it, again, you've got about what do we got? We got about I don't know, 10 or 11 grains of powder, you know, in this little bowl. I'm just going to dump it out. I think I forgot which one it was from there. I think it's unique maybe, but. So that was about 11 grains of powder. That's not much weight, is it? Can we talk about ounces when we're weighing powder? Or even bullets, some really light bullets? Now, I think the lightest bullet I have, well, here's this in the case, but that's a 223 5.56. That's about a 55 grain bullet. Now, that's not very heavy, 55 grains. So you can't talk in terms of ounces. You know, most things we're talking about, if you about how much your hammer weighs, your claw hammer, your sledgehammer, your tire, you can talk about it in ounces or pounds, can't you? How much a chair weighs, even how much your shoes weigh. They're going to weigh ounces or a pound or 2 or 3 or something, see, or a gun. You know, we're always comparing guns like this PPKS. I don't know how much that weighs, 20 ounces, 25 ounces or something. You know, we talk about it with firearms, don't we? Well, with bullets, they're so far down the scale that we use grains. We need a smaller unit of measurement. It's just that simple. And with powder, even a smaller. That's the other thing. Even the lightest bullet that would be talking about in terms of how much it weighs, it's going to weigh more than any powder charge almost it would be talking about. See, that's another difference, okay? Yes, we're talking about bullet when we're talking about grains and when we're reading what's on the box. And then also, generally with powder charges, so many of them are like 3.5 grains or 5.6 grains or 10 grains, you know. So there aren't many bullets that weigh that small amount. Even a 22, you know, long rifle is usually like 34, 36 grains or 40 grains, you know, 223, 55 grains. Those are usually the lightest bullets that I can think of right offhand. And then right on up, you know, a 9mm is 115 grains or 147 grains, 124 grains, you know, that's a 9mm. You know, 38s are usually 158 grains, 125 grains. So that'd be a lot of powder, Even this 4570 case, and these old cartridges, I don't want to confuse you by going too deep, but even these old cases, that was called 4570 partly because it would hold 40, it was a 45 caliber and it was loaded with 70 grains of black powder. But that's pretty unique. Now, as far as modern powders, you can get pretty much powder in a big old case like that, you know, maybe 30 grains of powder, okay? That's a huge case, see? And there just aren't many actual bullets that would be 30 grains. Again, measure the amount of powder that it would take for a warm load in that case. So most powders, say 30 grains, that's lighter than even this little bitty 22 bullet, see? Okay? So we're talking about 2 different major categories there. So just again, further evidence that we're not talking about the weight of the powder. It'd be a much smaller number. You know, anybody's talking about 230 grains of powder, you know, which is a common 45 ACP bullet. Man, you're talking about a lot of powder if that's powder.